It's pretty calming, isn't it, the sound of the sea? It's what they call brown noise, that sound. Put you to sleep almost. I come down here to sort of recharge and to do no thinking, just to be and feel it. It's bloody good. We all need that, don't we? Bit of a getaway. And I gather stuff as well. There's plenty of food along here. I've just done a couple of stints living around that point up there. Did another primitive challenge. And it was a challenge, as I found out. Anyway, this video to you brothers and the occasional listener joining us is about something I talked about the last video, which is known in the medical profession as locus of control. We have either an external or an internal. I learnt all this from my friend Glenn, who's a doctor with Reversal NZ, and they reverse diseases like diabetes and heart disease and inflammation and all sorts of diseases, and they talk about the people that have the most success in their lives with wellness. And I am very unsuccessful with my wellness. I've had a terrible I've had bad health in the last few years, and I know why I've had bad health, and it's never just one thing. And it doesn't matter if I'm talking about mental health. I'm actually talking about physical health, but it doesn't really matter. Bad health is bad health, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever, it's bad. And I've had two battles, one with cancer and one with heart disease, both of which I've won. But along the way, I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot about suffering, and I've learned a lot about acceptance, and I've learned a lot about finding solutions to problems. And Glenn said to me, if you have an internal focus, which it's your locus of control, that locus is the centre of everything. So if everything's centred around you internally, fixing a problem, you have a chance of winning. Whatever it is, whether it's a relationship problem, problem with your health, problem with your finances, problem with anything. That's my brother just texting me. I'm helping him out right now, actually. That's my real brother, Tristan. You're going to get better, or you're going to find a way to get through it. If you have an external locus of control, you probably won't. The difference is, if you have an external locus of control, that means when you have a problem, whether it's, let's just imagine for instance you have debilitating anxiety, and I use this example because I have a couple of people that I'm helping right now. One of them who's my brother, who's talked about his own anxiety, and living with him I found out just how debilitating it is for him, and I'm teaching him about internal and external locus of control. So if you externally try to fix something, you try to fix it with things outside of yourself, like drugs, alcohol, excessive anything, whether it's exercise or hunting or fishing or anything, you just excessive all the time, so you're not focusing on the inside thing. Now, I'm not saying that those things, exercise and hunting and fishing, I'm not saying that they are bad, because they're not, they're good. That means you're out doing something and you're moving forward, and they are very helpful. But to address the causation of, say for instance, anxiety is a good example, because 75% of the population suffer from it. It's really important to get down to those uncomfortable feelings and know what it is specifically that's making you feel anxious. And you may not know. In the case of my brother, he says he doesn't know. But we can pinpoint it to a number of things now through talking and finding out, and finding ways to manage it, because you can't always fix everything. And I know that because I've got things wrong with me I can't fix. I wish I could, but I can't, because I'm hurt. I've got things I've got injuries. I've got a shoulder that's fucked. I've got a leg that's full of scars. My body has got so many broken bits in it, they won't ever get fixed. So what I do is I manage it, and I go through this life. And it's the same with your emotional problems too. If you have an emotional problem, you may not always be able to fix it 100%, but you can learn to manage it. And the way you learn to manage it is by centre of control locus. It's not by going outside and drinking or eating bad food or staying on your phone for hours scrolling, or excessive sex or drugs or alcohol or eating. Eating's a big one. I know all of this because I've been excessive in all of those things in my journey to where I am today. I've been excessive with eating, I've been excessive with gambling, I've been excessive with being with women in my younger time, and all of those things have led to bad health in one way or another. Luckily for me, I've had enough grey matter to pull myself out of it and recognise what I was doing to myself, but often too little too late. And none of us have a book on how to live this life. Everybody's doing the best they can. Recently I had Ezra come and stay with me, and Ezra said he had to really battle his anxiety to travel, and I was really proud of him. And I thought, man, he came to stay with me with his family, and it was really wonderful having him. But I know it was really tough for him to make that trip, that journey, stepping outside of his comfort zone. And I'm so glad he did, and he's so glad he did. So sometimes you've got to endure your uncomfortable feelings, and you've got to endure feeling anxious and feeling stressed. And you've got, as a man, you've got to endure a lot of these feelings to get through, and that's what being brave is. Brave is not the person that doesn't have these feelings. Brave is the person that has these feelings but pushes through anyway and overcomes. That's what bravery is. And part of being a man is about being brave. That's what part of being a man is, and it's about enduring. And for women too. Women in a lot of ways are built so differently to us, and they have different coping mechanisms. And I'm talking to my brothers here, but there's probably a lot of women that would relate to this, or they may see it in their husbands and their partners and realise that their partners are not actually dealing with the causation, they're perpetuating it by external locus of control. So people that survive cancer all share one thing in common, and there's a really good book about it. They all have one thing in common. They all, in some form or another, take control of the situation themselves. They don't just leave it to the doctors. They don't just leave it to a pill. They don't just leave it to a prescription of painkillers or a surgery or a procedure. They take control of themselves. They may still have the pill or the procedure, but they make sure they know what's going on. And as soon as they have this control, they say, right, I'm going to get this operation, or I'm going to get this chemotherapy, or I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this type of therapy instead, or I'm going to change my diet radically to see what this does. All of those people have a much, much higher rate of survival. For me personally, when I had cancer, I had a pretty serious cancer. I had two tumours that were starting to metastasise outside of the prostate, and they were about to go walk about around old Clay's body. And I did my due diligence and my research, and I said, right, I'm going to have this surgery, but I was supposed to follow up with radiation and chemotherapy. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And they said, well, there's a risk, there's cancer still there. And I said, I will deal with it. And I dealt with it by eating just one meal every 23 hours. And it was hard. And my weight went down. And by doing that, I created a state of autophagy. And an amazing thing goes on in your body when you're in a state of autophagy. It's called apoptosis, and that's where all the cancer gets eaten up. The body's cleaning everything up because there's no food to chew on, basically. It's not quite that. That's a simplified way. But every radical or free radical gets chewed up. Even things like skin tags disappear. The body sucks everything. And during that state of fasting, it cleans itself out. And then when you're constantly fasting, as I was for 3.5 years, guess what? The same cancer that killed my uncle within 18 months, bless him, and a beautiful man too he was, when I got it, here I am now 4 years later having this conversation with you. I've in the last year had another health battle where I've had to change my diet again, and I've won that battle already. But all of these things that I won was me taking control, not just giving it to the doctors. And by all means, if you've got an acute problem, like you have a heart attack, there's no better place in the world you want to be than in a hospital. Or if you break your leg, you want to be in the hospital. But for chronic conditions like anxiety and perpetual pain and depression and insomnia, chronic things, the causation has to be dealt with. And that's where, as men, we have to step up and go, really, what's going on here? And sometimes, not always, but sometimes there's a payoff to being sick. Sometimes being obese, or sometimes being in pain all the time, or sometimes there's something that you get a wee payoff without realising it. you might be getting cared for better by somebody, or it means you don't have to work in that certain place, or it might mean that you have an excuse to not deal with a certain responsibility that's actually on your shoulders to deal with. And these things are common with people. So I say to people when they're sick, and I'm trying to help them out, so have you considered maybe changing your diet this way? And I get the common thing, oh man, I'm not giving up those foods. And I'll say to them, let's explore that a bit deeper. Let's look at that. You're suffering, but you're not prepared to give up the cause of your suffering. Why is that? And how does it feel when you're suffering? Well, I've got this back pain, it keeps me awake at night. And I'll say to them, man, I can relate to that. But they can't make enough Voltaren for me. I get that. What does it make you feel like having this pain? And they might turn around and say, well, what does it make you feel like? And I'll say, it makes me miserable, man. I get sleep deprivation, and I have hard nights, and there's nothing good I like about it, and I have done everything. And if I could find the answer, I'd give it to you and share it with you. And then I'll turn it back around to them and say, what is it like for you to have that back pain? And they might say, oh, well, it's I can't work like I used to anymore, and I'm really laid up. And for 90% of the time, I'll find out that they're in the same boat as me. They don't want to have that pain. But then I'll sometimes come across that 10% of people. And a lot of those, it's often food problems, where they're abusing food. They're using food as a way to fill an emotional, something that's missing in that. And fuck, I've done that. I've been like that, definitely. I used to have a real problem with sugar at one stage. So I can relate to that, and I get it. And it's an old saying, which is an old Buddhist saying, which is, man is prepared to fight and die, but he will not give up the cause of his suffering. So he'll fight and die for something that he wants, that's causing him so much pain, but he won't give it up. And sometimes you've got to look at what's really important in my life. What do I really want to achieve here? Because quite often, when I was overweight, and yes, I've been overweight, it served me on some level to be a little bit overweight. And there's also a certain laziness about just indulging in dopamine, eating this food because it feels good, makes me feel good. I'm not giving up that. Big juicy hamburgers and stuff that's just so bad for you, and typical Western diet, too little too late. Anyway, it's never too late to change, and we all have a journey to go on, and it's our own journey, and nobody can actually tell us what we should do. We have to ultimately decide ourselves. And those of us that do have that centre of control, with their locus of centre control, generally can find a way through it and can actually resolve the causation of their suffering. Anyway, brothers, this has been the Broadcheck Club. It's been a while. I've been pretty busy. I'm looking after my own brother right now, literally, and that's where I'll leave it. I hope your own boys go well, and thanks for joining us, and I'll see you in another Broadcheck video soon. Go steady. See you later. G'day, mate. Hey, how you going? Yeah, good. Yeah, good to see you.
How are you, mate?
I'm just doing a video for the Broadcheck Club.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, it's not the Clay Tool stories, yeah.
No, it is? Or
No, it's not, no.
No.
I've got a second channel, it's for men's health.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. It's called the Broadcheck Club. It came about when a young guy topped himself, was looking after a while ago. And
Yeah, I saw that. Was it your nephew?
no, my nephew died too. He died last year in Muriel Falls. He drowned.
Yeah, no, it's tragic.
Yeah, my son nearly drowned trying to save him. Anyway, guys, I'll love your leave. I'm going to talk to my mate here. Here's a brother.
G'day. Guys, see ya.
Yeah.